What would you do if, on a stormy night in Seattle, you saw two children left out in the rain, one limping on crutches, the other clutching an empty tin can, their eyes silently begging for help? Would you walk away, or would you step into their storm? This is not just a story about rain and hardship. It's about secrets hidden behind closed doors, a foster mother with a past she can't let go of, and a stranger who refuses to ignore two small voices. But sometimes, saving a child doesn't start with the law. It begins with a promise whispered in the dark. As you watch, ask yourself, if you had been in Michael's place, would you have done the same? Seattle was swallowed by the biggest autumn storm of the year. Wind whipped down the brick streets, rain pelted like lashes on glass and stone. People rushed home, stores slammed their doors, neon signs flickered like dying stars. From a forgotten alley came a sound clack, clack, the uneven beat of crutches striking wet pavement. Ethan, a 7-year-old boy with twisted legs that never healed right, leaned heavily on his wooden crutches. His thin body trembled in the downpour. Beside him, Lily, only 5, clutched an empty tin can, her wide eyes brimming with tears. In the shadows stood Margaret, their foster mother. Not a mother by blood, but by the cruel twist of papers and loopholes that let her claim children she never loved. Arms crossed, eyes sharp, she hissed, "Go on." Nights like this make people generous. Bring me money, or you'll regret it. Ethan's lips tightened, his small hands gripping the crutches until his knuckles turned white. Lily whimpered, but Margaret shoved the can into her palm. A whip cracked against the brick wall. Its echo made both children flinch. Out onto the sidewalk, Ethan hobbled, the metallic thud of his crutches mixing with the roar of rain. Lily followed, hair plastered to her cheeks, holding the tin can out to strangers rushing by. No one stopped. No one met their eyes. Then a sleek black car slowed. Behind the glass sat Michael Carter, a wealthy businessman who lived in glass towers but carried emptiness inside. His gaze locked on the children, and in an instant, the years rolled back. He saw his younger brother, the boy he once failed to protect, shivering in another storm long ago. Michael lowered the window. Cold rain lashed his face. "Children, what are you doing out here?" His voice was hoarse, heavy with disbelief. Ethan froze, clutching the crutches tighter. Lily pressed closer, staring at the stranger's kind but unfamiliar face. And then, out of the darkness, Margaret emerged. Her smile was thin as a blade, her eyes cold and watchful. The boy's words stuck in his throat. The girl's tears sparkled like glass under the streetlight. And in that fragile pause, a chain of events began, one that would change all of their lives forever. Margaret stepped forward quickly, her false smile masking irritation. "Oh, they're just mischievous," she cooed. "I'm their mother." "Thank you for your concern." Sir Michael didn't answer right away. His eyes moved to Ethan, whose lips trembled with words unsaid, and to Lily, whose tiny frame shivered under the weight of silence. Nothing about them suggested safety. Everything about them screamed fear. "It's dangerous," Michael said evenly. "Children shouldn't be outside in weather like this. Let me drive you home." Margaret shook her head. "No need. We're fine. We live nearby." Her tone was clipped, final. Michael reached into his coat, pulled out a business card, and leaned down to offer it. Ethan's hand twitched toward it, but Margaret snatched it before he could touch it. Her smile stiffened. "I'll keep it safe." "Thank you." With a swift tug, she pulled the children back into the alley. Their small figures disappeared into the shadows. Just before the darkness swallowed them, Ethan twisted back, his eyes meeting Michael's for a fleeting second. In them burned a silent plea. Don't believe her. Michael stood there in the rain, heart pounding. He knew he could not push further, not yet. But the image of those eyes, half drowned, half desperate, seared itself into his memory. He would not forget. He would not walk away. 3 days later, the storm still hadn't passed. Rain smudged the skyline into a watercolor of gray. Michael walked past Lambert's Market, lost in thought, when he heard it again. Clack, clack. The unmistakable rhythm of crutches. Ethan was there, hobbling weakly. Lily trailed beside him, clutching her battered tin can. Both children looked paler than before, their clothes soaked through. Michael approached cautiously. When Margaret turned her back to scold another child, Ethan limped close. His small hand thrust something into Michael's palm. Keep it, he whispered, then turned away quickly, as though nothing had happened. Michael slipped the object into his pocket and walked on, forcing himself not to look back. Only once inside his car did he unfold the damp, crumpled paper. It was a drawing, scribbled lines, crooked shapes. A square box, a lock drawn large. Inside, a small stick figure curled tight. Across the top, in shaky letters, closet. Michael's breath caught. Bill's memory struck him like lightning. His own brother years ago, sketching closed doors and dark corners. A silent cry no one had heeded. By the time Michael realized, it had been too late. Not this time. That night he took the drawing to the police. He laid it on the desk like a bomb. These children are being locked away. This is proof. The officer glanced at it, sighed, and shook his head. A child's doodle. Without physical evidence, sir, there's nothing we can do. Michael stared at him, rage and helplessness warring in his chest. Finally, he pocketed the drawing, his voice low. If the law won't protect them, then I will. The storm outside beat against the windows. Michael walked out into the night, the crumpled sketch pressed against his chest like fragile evidence of a truth too easily ignored. The following evening, Michael found the rundown apartment Margaret called home. The hallway smelled of mildew and cigarette smoke. Paint peeled from the doors. He knocked once and the door creaked open. Margaret stood there, a cigarette dangling from her fingers. Her eyes narrowed. You again? Think you're some kind of savior? Michael's gaze was steady. I need to understand. Why are you doing this to them? She laughed bitterly, collapsing into a sagging chair. Understand? I used to have everything, a husband, a steady job at a diner. Then a fire burned it all down. He walked out. I was left with nothing. Smoke curled around her face as she sneered. So I took back control. I adopted. Children earn what I can't. That's balance. That's justice. In the corner, Ethan and Lily sat silently, wide eyes fixed on the floor. Michael's heart ached. That's not justice. That's revenge. And they're paying for wounds they never caused. Margaret's eyes flashed. She stubbed her cigarette out hard. You don't get it. They're mine, and you can't take them. The door slammed shut. Michael stood in the dark hallway, the faint sound of crutches tapping from inside. He clenched his fists. This ends now. Michael turned to Amelia Ross, a young attorney known for championing children's rights. She listened intently, then said, Stories aren't enough. We need evidence. Bring me everything he handed over the drawing, the photos he'd secretly taken of Ethan's bruises, and a neighbor's testimony about children left outside in storms. Amelia nodded grimly. It's a start. Margaret fought back. She hired a cut-rate lawyer and spread rumors that Michael was kidnapping children to polish his image. Local tabloids fed on it. Some sympathized with Margaret, others doubted Michael's motives. Court day came. The room was packed. Margaret sat stiffly, chin high. Her lawyer painted her as a struggling, single mother. She does everything for her children. Meanwhile, Mr. Carter, a wealthy man, seeks to exploit them for his own ends. Michael seethed, but Amelia rose, calm and sharp. Photographs, medical records, eyewitnesses, a child's drawing of confinement. This is not discipline. This is neglect. The judge frowned, flipping through the evidence. Margaret's smirk faltered. Michael placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, feeling the boy tremble beneath his palm. Just one more step, he thought, and they'll be free. The judge called Ethan forward. The boy leaned heavily on his crutches, each step echoing through the hushed courtroom. He stood small, frail, but his voice, though trembling, carried to every corner. She makes us beg on the street. If we don't bring money, she locks me in the closet. No light, no food. Just dark. I only wanted to stay home. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Ethan looked down, his hands shaking. Then, gathering strength, he added, She says I'm a burden. But I just want to learn like other kids. Lily burst into tears, rushing up to hug her brother. Her tin can clattered to the floor. Between sobs, she whispered, I only want light. I don't want the dark anymore. Amelia stepped forward, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Children imagine many things. But bruises don't lie. Frostbite doesn't lie. Their voices today are truth itself. Margaret stiffened, her false bravado crumbling. For once, her eyes darted nervously. Michael watched from behind, tears burning. His brother had never had the chance to speak. But Ethan and Lily had, and the world had listened. As court recessed, Ethan staggered off the stand. Michael rushed forward, catching him. Ethan whispered hoarsely, I told them everything. Do you think they'll believe me? Michael knelt, eyes steady. You lit up the whole room. No one can shut you in the dark again. The judge's gavel struck. Margaret Reed is stripped of guardianship. Temporary custody is awarded to Mr. Michael Carter, pending adoption proceedings. For a moment, silence. Then Margaret erupted. They're mine. You can't take them. Guards restrained her, leading her out as her voice echoed down the hall. Ethan clutched his crutches. Lily hugged the tin can tight. We don't have to go back? She asked softly. Michael knelt, pulling them close. No. Never again. Days later, his penthouse, once cold and cavernous, was transformed. Lily turned the tin can into a flower pot, placing it by the window. Ethan practiced walking laps through the living room, steps steadier each day. On the wall, Lily taped her drawings, not locked closets, but skies full of stars. Michael watched quietly. For years he had lived surrounded by wealth, but starved of family. Now laughter echoed through his home. One evening Ethan asked, Will you be our dad forever? Michael's throat tightened. He clasped the boy's hand. Forever. Storms may come, but we'll face them together. In the light outside, rain still tapped the glass. But inside, warmth glowed golden, a promise that the storm had finally passed. Years passed. Seattle's rains still came, but they no longer brought fear. Ethan, now a teenager, walked confidently with his crutches, taller and stronger. Lily blossomed into a lively girl, always tending the flowers grown in that same battered tin can. Michael, hair silvering with age, sat by the window watching them laugh. His smile was quiet, content. "We made it through the storm," he whispered, "and the light stayed." Outside, drizzle traced soft lines down the glass, not as threat, but as lullaby. Inside, three souls, once strangers, had become a family.